What's going on? This is Theo Greminger, aka the OG Fantasy, back at it. This is a 2-minute drill. I'm going to give you all of my fantasy football reactions from week 3, the biggest takeaways that you need to know heading into week 4. The San Francisco buzzsaw continues. No Brandon Ayuk, no problem. Deebo Samuel goes nuts. 129 yards receiving and a touchdown. Made some spectacular plays. Turned a 20-yard catch into a 40-yard catch. If you know, you know. Watch the highlight. George Kittle, best game of the season. Christian McCaffrey is absolutely rolling. But my biggest takeaway, Brock Purdy passes for over 300 yards. First time he's ever done that in his career. We're going to keep an eye on Brock Purdy moving up into potentially the top 12 quarterbacks weekly. Miami Dolphins offensive explosion. This was insane. We don't need to dive into this too much. 726 yards of total offense, NFL record. Scored 70 points. First time an NFL team has scored 70 since the 1970 merger. Tua Tagovailoa locked in. Tyreek Hill, your favorite for wide receiver 1 overall. They didn't even have Jalen Waddle, and this happened. And those running backs were pretty good this week too. Raheem Mostert, 142 combined yards, and he scored 4 touchdowns. And he didn't even lead the Miami Dolphins backfield in PPR points. Devon Achane, we told you about him on Player Profiler all throughout rookie draft season. Begged you to take him. He's been one of the guys that I've flag planted for a long time here. I got a lot of pushback. They said he was too small. Last week on Sonic Truth Podcast, the Podfather and I were begging you to try to find a way to add Devon Achane. I have a ton of Devon Achane. I feel really good right now. He looked incredible. He exploded. 203 yards rushing, 18 carries, and he had a 67-yard rushing touchdown, which was just insane. He was electric. He also added 2 touchdowns receiving. And a lot of these manufactured touches for him on like shovel passes, that's not going away. That's something that we expect to see each week. They want to get the ball in his hands. This is the perfect situation for Devon Achane. Mike McDaniel knows how to get the maximum value out of fast NFL players who are great in space. You saw last year with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You've seen with this a tremendous start from Raheem Mostert. Now they have the Devon Achane factor. Miami Dolphins might win the Super Bowl this year on the strength of their offense. And they've got a pretty big game coming up this week. Miami heads into Buffalo. Massive game. The Bills passed the test. I thought Washington was going to hang. I was wrong. Buffalo steamrolled them. 37-3 win. The defense was dominant. They intercepted Sam Howell 4 times, sacked him 9 times. Stephon Diggs played great. 8 catches, 111 yards. Diggs is from the DMV. He showed up in the DMV, not far from Good Counsel High School, where he went to high school and was a tremendous player there. He just, cooked the Commanders secondary. Could have been a much bigger day for Diggs, but Buffalo didn't really have to, put the pedal to the metal in order to control this one. And we got to talk about James Cook. Continues his strong start, 112 combined yards. Now you've got the big matchup against Miami. Last year, Buffalo and Miami faced off 3 times. Every single game was decided by 3 points or less. The playoff game in the AFC wild card, you had Miami starting Skylar Thompson, fell 34-31, disappointing loss. They got a lot of pressure on Josh Allen that game. They hung around as big dogs. Now, Miami's looking like a team that can go into Buffalo and get the win. This is the game of the week. Got to talk about Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, unbelievable day. 0-2 Chargers beat the 0-2 Vikings. Very entertaining game. The game had a lot of big-time plays from big-time players, as can be expected, but there was no better performance than Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen set a career high and a Chargers franchise high with 18 catches. He set a career high with 215 receiving yards. This is unbelievable play. His start has been terrific. Keenan Allen is a bona fide contender for a top 3 wide receiver finish. Unbelievable player, and his role is going to grow larger. I don't expect him to pass for a touchdown every week like he did this past week, but I do expect that he's going to have a 30% target share now that Mike Williams is out for the season. Take a look at my waiver wire article. I'm going to talk about a couple of options to replace Mike Williams and a couple of options that we need to have our eyes on in Los Angeles, including Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston, who might see a larger role now that they've lost Williams. Got to talk about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson did not look good early in the season, but he absolutely looked great on Sunday. He had 289 yards passing. He added 16 more rushing yards, connected with Jerome Ford and Amari Cooper on touchdown passes. Cleveland rolled Tennessee 27-3. The Cooper Watson connection is significant. These were guys that didn't really click last season. This is a really good building block. No Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper's got to step up, and the Watson Cooper combination has got to be something that the Browns can rely on weekly. Cooper going for 7 receptions, 116 yards, both season highs, and he finds the end zone. Jerome Ford also, the rushing output was not what we wanted to see, but the usage was very, very promising. I'm kicking the tires, trying to pick up some Jerome Ford this week in a trade in my Dynasty leagues. Try to do it in your Dynasty leagues and your redraft leagues. See where this thing goes. Got to talk about a running back who's not really intriguing right now, and that's Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry ran for only 20 yards this past week when Cleveland just, beat the hell out of him. He had 20 yards on 11 carries. Through 3 games played, King Henry has 3.2 yards per carry. Not good. Tyjae Spears has outsnapped him in 2 out of 3 games. This could be a low-key Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Zeke Elliott, Austin Eckler, Melvin Gordon situation brewing. Tennessee's got to get it going on offense, and one way they might try to do that is by getting the ball in Tyjae Spears' hands. Spears had 4 catches this past week. He's explosive. Tennessee's got to try something. They're not out of it yet, but they're getting close to being out of it. Sam Laporta is unbelievable. Biggest takeaway, we had the rookie showcase game. Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, your top 2 picks in non-superflex rookie drafts going head-to-head. Jahmyr Gibbs had his best rushing performance this season with 80 yards, but he only caught 1 pass. Big disappointment. Bijan Robinson, worst game of the season, finishes with 60 combined yards. Atlanta was controlled by that Detroit Lions defense, and Desmond Ridder couldn't really do a thing. But the biggest takeaway for me is Sam Laporta is an unbelievable player. This is the next big thing at tight end in the NFL. Laporta set a record for rookie tight ends through 3 games with his 18th catch. He breaks Keith Jackson's record from 1988. Laporta had 84 yards and a touchdown. Looked unbelievable. He's had multiple times this season as a top 8 finisher at the tight end position. Looks terrific. His 186 yards receiving are second all-time to Aaron Hernandez through 3 games for a rookie tight end. Laporta is a top 5 tight end rest of the season. I don't care that he's a rookie. He's locked and loaded, and he's pointing up. Another rookie that's looking great is CJ Stroud. We talked about taking CJ Stroud ahead of Bryce Young on the Sonic Truth podcast all summer long. We liked CJ Stroud more than Bryce Young. And it's not really victory lap time. There's a lot of football left for Bryce Young. But one thing that can't be denied is CJ Stroud looks awesome. In week 2, he had 384 yards passing. This past Sunday, he had 280 yards passing and 2 touchdown passes. He looks terrific. The Houston Texans are in 11 personnel a lot. He has an ascending receiver in Tank Dell, who had 145 yards receiving on Sunday. And Nico Collins is off to a tremendous start. Quiet game on Sunday, but Nico Collins is playing great. And he's got the veteran Robert Woods as his wide receiver 3. CJ Stroud is firmly on the QB1 streaming radar. I think it's sometime this season, you might start seeing CJ Stroud ranked inside of the top 12. Anthony Richardson's already locked in at the top 12. What an impactful rookie class. The Jacksonville Jaguars, on the other hand, they lost to Houston 37-17. Back-to-back losses that were very disappointing. You can understand losing to Kansas City at home, but to get steamrolled by the young Houston Texans with a new head coach and a new quarterback and struggling offensive line at home in Jacksonville, unacceptable. You've had all 3 Jacksonville receivers of their big 3, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram, all have big games. The problem is they've each done it on a single week. Week 1 was Calvin Ridley. Week 2 was Christian Kirk. Week 3, Evan Ingram. Not what we want to see as fantasy managers for predictability. We like to have guys that we kind of know is what's going to happen. There's some issues in Jacksonville. They just can't score. They have 26 combined points the last 2 weeks in home losses to Kansas City and Houston. Trevor Lawrence had his huge breakout last year. He can't really get it going. Now they have an absolute must-win game against Atlanta. If Jacksonville does not beat Atlanta this week, the wheels are falling off of Jacksonville. Who knows where that situation is going to go? Must-win game against the Falcons. Do we have a bell cow running back in Indianapolis not named Jonathan Taylor? Zach Moss' start to the season is nuts. Zach Moss has never had more than 125 combined touches in a season. This past Sunday, he had 122 yards and he added 2 catches, including a touchdown, as Indianapolis beat Baltimore in overtime. Minshew Magic on the road. Moss has been one of the biggest storylines in fantasy the past 2 weeks. His 2-week stats: 210 yards rushing, 6 catches, and he scored touchdowns in back-to-back games. Zach Moss is a locked-in, crazy to say, top 15 running back this week. And the Colts are 2-1, and they might be the best team in the AFC South. They've gotten through 2 straight wins without Anthony Richardson. Richardson got the fast start in week 2. Minshew relieved him. Minshew wins game 3. Now they've got 2 very winnable games the next 2 weeks against the Rams and the Titans before a huge road game in Jacksonville. Indianapolis might be the sneaky first half team in the AFC. And one of the big reasons is the play of Zach Moss. Another running back who looked incredible this past week was Kenneth Walker. Seattle moves to 2-1, 37-27 victory over Carolina. Walker scored his 4th touchdown of the season. He rushed for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he added 59 receiving yards. Walker looks tremendous. Zach Charbonnet is getting touches, but the threat of Charbonnet to Walker really hasn't been a thing at all. Walker is a running back 1 moving forward. A couple of takeaways that you didn't get by reading this article. And if you like this video, make sure you check out my 2-minute drill article, which is going to drop every single Monday on playerprofiler.com. Again, every single Monday, playerprofiler.com. Look for this video in article form called the 2-minute drill. Takeaways from Monday night. Mike Evans is not going away. Mike Evans finishes with 5 catches, 60 yards receiving, and a touchdown. And it could have been a smash game. Evans actually had a few drops, and Baker Mayfield keeps going to him. Mike Evans has been off to a torrid start. He's been one of the steals of the draft season, and he's going to keep it going right now. Bucks lose. This seemed like a trap game for Philadelphia. They passed the test. They go on the road. They win 25-11. Philadelphia defense stepped up. Jalen Hurts did enough. And DeAndre Swift went absolutely nuts. DeAndre Swift averages 8.1 yards per carry. He runs for 130 yards. Over the last 2 weeks, DeAndre Swift has just been unbelievable. Philadelphia looks like they have a steal from Detroit in this DeAndre Swift trade. DeAndre Swift didn't even have to catch the ball this week. He was doing it all on the ground. He was absolutely shredding the Bucs defense, and it could have been a lot more. I'm wondering if Gainwell's going to get less work, or is this rotation to keep the backs fresh? Nick Sirianni has always deferred to a running back by committee, but he's never had a running back playing as well as DeAndre Swift is right now. Unbelievable play from Swift. And we got to talk about A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown went nuts. 9 catches, 131 yards receiving. Reminds everyone kind of who he is. This is a truly elite player that can dominate any NFL secondary at any given time. A.J. Brown is a locked-in wide receiver 1 and a high-end 1 at that. Jamar Chase, big bounce-back game. 12 catches, 141 yards receiving, and he had 15 targets. T. Higgins completely quiet. Poor game from Higgins. Big bounce-back game from Jamar Chase. There was a lot of worries about Jamar Chase in weeks 1 and 2. The Bengals are showing you by the usage that they had for him that this is not going to be the case. It's Jamar Chase smash week. Jamar Chase is set to have a number of weeks like this if he continues to see this sort of usage. And why would the Bengals get away from it? He's their best player by far. He's one of the best wide receivers in football. And let's talk about Puka Nacua. Mixed feelings about Puka Nacua from a number of different takes this morning. This is a positive for me that Puka Nacua had 5 catches for 72 yards. This was a bad game for him. He still manages to go over 70 yards receiving. He still manages to give you 12 PPR points. The Rams offense just could not get it going. Kyron Williams struggled as well. But Puka Nacua in a bad game, finishing inside the wide receiver 3 line, is a positive. Puka Nacua, treat him like a wide receiver 2, a low-end wide receiver 2 this week, and look for more strong performances from him. Again, this is the 2-minute drill, fantasy football musings and reactions from week 3. I'm Theo Greminger. Look for this article on playerprofiler.com. Stick with us all week long, not only for our shows, but we're going to drop in a bunch of these short videos like this. Let's crush it in week 4.